Mina Malik Hussain, and you're watching The Coffee Table. And as I'm sure you all, but we're here to kind of reiterate and give you all these wonderful nuggets of information. April is C-Section Awareness Month all around the world. And we were thinking about this. And on one level, we were thinking that so many people have, so many women have C-sections. And why do we need awareness about it? But the truth is that childbirth is often not as simple as we anticipate it to be. And there's a lot of baggage around a C-section that we thought it would be really interesting to unpack on the show today. So we're so excited to have two wonderful people who work with babies and work with their moms on the show. And I'm so excited to be welcoming Dr. Yousaf Latif Khan, who is a professor of obstetrics and gynecology at the Rashid Latif Medical Hospital. He's the founder member of the Society for Gynecological Endoscopy and is also a consultant OBGYN at Hamid Latif Hospital in Lahore. And we are also joined by Anum Malik, who is a distinguished graduate of the American Fitness Professionals Association, and she is the founder of Braxton Cakes, which is a program designed to help with the fitness, health, and nutrition of pre- and postpartum women. Yay! Welcome to the show, both of you. So I want to start with Dr. Yousaf, because I like to, begin at the beginning. So when we are talking about C-sections or cesareans versus vaginal births, what does a C-section entail?
Thank you, Mina. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Indus and, of course, you for inviting me over here.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. And I hope you don't have to deliver someone
making it
right now.
And making this month as a C-section, as we all know it, and you are the only one, I think, channel in Pakistan who's kind of taking it one notch up as usual. So that's a good thing.
Thank you.
So you asked me what's the difference between a normal delivery and a C-section, I suppose. And to put in a nutshell, this pregnancy is a beautiful journey. And once you start with that, and in the journey, there's a lot of hurdles which come up, and it is how you go with them, and it ends at the time of the delivery. And of course, we have only two routes to deliver, either by the normal delivery and by a C-section. And it's the desire of the doctor and the parents and everybody around us that we need to have a healthy mother, we need to have a healthy baby at the end.
Yeah.
So there are certain things which we have to understand. You have to listen to your doctor who you're going to, number one.
Yes.
How he or she kind of perceiving you and taking you along. And you have to kind of weigh their judgment as well out. And of course, there's also the vicious part of the patient and the attendants, and the sasuma also comes in. So all of these kind of will combine. They're all going to combine down, and they will come out with but in the end, do remember that the objective of the result is the same in all of the cases, which is to have, mashallah, have a healthy baby and a healthy mother in the end. So the difference between a C-section and normal delivery, if you ask me what people come, the normal delivery takes about 10 hours to play around, and then you finally end up with this thing. While a section hardly takes about 30, maybe 40 minutes done, and you're done. And most of the time, you have a general or a spinal anesthesia, you don't even feel that, and the mother hands over the baby. But that is just the start of the story, not the end of it. It's just the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's not only the hospital stay, which kind of only varies for a couple of days, but it's a lifelong journey which you have to go through yourself and the baby, and whatever you decided at that time.
Yes.
As a human nature, we do agree. We are not in the mood to have any kind of pains for whatever reasons we think so. But in this century, if a patient is kind of worried about the contractions or the pains or whatever, but they all can be managed in a manner which is befitting for that particular patient.
Absolutely. I think it's a really important that you've mentioned here that in this century, pain should be a manageable thing. And there are so many options for expectant mothers to choose how to manage their own birth journey. And I think that that's often when we talk about women in healthcare, it can be quite sort of problematic and fraught. And I'm glad that you mentioned in-laws, because I think that in a lot of South Asian cultures, and I'm sure this happens in other cultures as well, there is a lot of interference from relatives as well, and a birth journey is not necessarily only about the parents and the baby, which like ideally it should be. But this is where, Anum, I want to come to you. And we often refer to vaginal births as normal deliveries, because that's just sort of how we kind of casually say it. And also I think people are squeamish about saying the word vaginal. But do you think that it also reflects a certain kind of social or cultural idea that people have about vaginal births versus C-sections? Like there's something not normal about a C-section?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so first up, like for me personally, and I say this to a lot of women, I have an issue with the term normal delivery to begin with. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying vaginal. It should be a very normal, healthy part of, our vernacular. Whether you deliver vaginally or you deliver through cesarean, women need to understand that regardless, as Dr. Latif also mentioned, that the ultimate goal is the same, right? It's to safely deliver a baby and with, the same outcome, a healthy baby and a healthy mother. Yes, there are a lot of pain-free methods to delivery now, but I feel like everywhere in the world, there are two distinct schools of thoughts when it comes to delivering through cesarean. Right. One is that there is a lot of pride that is associated with delivering vaginally. That's why we refer to it as delivering normally.
Yes.
And the other is the fear of delivering vaginally. So there is some women will opt for cesarean because they'll believe that, okay, that's going to be, that's a quick fix. Whereas there are other women who will believe that, okay, I want to try really hard for the vaginal because I don't want to do the quick fix and I want to do things the normal way. And I feel like both schools of thought is a little bit problematic because women need to understand that, these options are there for your own health and safety.
Yes.
And sometimes certain circumstances, yes, I understand that, some women opt for it and that's fine. That should be their choice. The way that you deliver should be your own choice. As long as you have all the medical advice and everything to back you up.
Yeah.
But women need to understand that sometimes the mode of delivery is completely out of your hands. Sometimes real emergency situations do occur. Yes. If we look at cesarean births, they've actually been happening for years, centuries even.
Centuries,
if you look at before, I was reading centuries. Motherhood Maternity Center recently they published this article in which they talked about cesarean, the method of the cesarean delivery dating back to, you didn't even have anesthesia, but women were still, there was but they were still, cutting the woman up, taking the baby out. That stuff was happening, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like now medical science is so much more advanced. We have less maternal deaths, less infant deaths. We have a lot more care for a woman. Yes. But I don't think that no matter how a woman delivers, there should be this sense of empowerment associated with the type of birth. No matter how you deliver, you should feel empowered. You give birth to a baby. It doesn't matter how you did it, and because I feel like there's so much guilt associated with the cesarean as well for a lot of women that they feel like it was a type of failure. So
absolutely.
I would really like to, I want to see that change.
Yes, and I want to kind of cycle back to that. But since we're sort of still at the beginning, Dr. Yousaf, could you tell us the sort of main reasons why one would need to opt for a cesarean? Because I know that there are hard reasons and there are soft reasons, and I'm just curious about what those reasons usually are.
All right. Before I get back to this, Mina, I would say that while Anna was speaking about the cesarean section when it started off,
yes,
you do remember that at that time, the C-section meant there was 100% mortality of the mother.
Yes, absolutely.
So once the C-section was done, the mother was done. It was just done for the baby to come out and maybe save that baby at that time.
Yes.
But now the things have changed, at least from that period of time. As I was going through the statistics all over the world, the percentage of C-section in all over the world is around 15%.
Yes.
And, the lowest C-section rate all over the world, where it is? During this century, it's in Africa.
Yes, I knew that. It's in sub-Saharan Africa. And the highest rate, I think, is in the United States. I wrote it down.
No, it's the Mexico and it's in Turkey, which goes as it 50%. Yeah.
So clearly there needs to be a balance between too many C-sections and too little C-sections also, because clearly that means that in, let's say, sub-Saharan Africa, why do there need to be more C-sections?
Why? Because their mortality and morbidity rate of the mother and the baby is sky high. So they don't have the facilities. They don't have any. Most of the deliveries are not done in the hospital settings. They're done at home.
Yes.
And the person who's kind of getting them, they are not trained to do a C-section. So they just wait out and see, and whatever happens. So that's kind of a dilemma which they're kind of living into, that kind of. And as a result of this, they have the highest, what we call VVF, which is kind of a fistula which happens after a C-section, which is a devastating disease as such itself, which is the highest, again, going back to Africa. But this is the same thing which happens in Pakistan, even in our Sindh provinces and in other certain areas where you don't have this kind of facilities available. So that we have to keep that in mind. And if we go by Pakistani views, in 1990s, our C-section rate was only 3.2%, while in 2018, it has gone up to 20% now.
Okay. So
and it is all over Pakistan. It's not only...
So that's all of Pakistan. It has increased by almost, let's say, I think 17%. My maths is very basic. So, Dr. Saab, is that a good thing that C-sections have increased, that the rate has increased?
Done for the right cause, it is perfectly fine. But if it is done just for the heck of it, I don't think so that's fair enough on anybody.
Yes.
So again, coming back to your question, what are the indications for a C-section or not? If I look at it grossly, there can be a reason from the maternal side, and there can be reason for the baby side as well.
Right.
So coming from the maternal side, if she has previous 2 C-section, then there is no chance of having her the third normal delivery. She can have a normal delivery or vaginal delivery after 1 C-section, but not after 2, because then the complications of this vaginal birth after C-section, it increases. So they don't kind of pursue that.
Yes.
And secondly, you have to look at this thing like CPD, which is called cephalic pelvic disproportion. That means the pelvis is not good enough to allow this size of the baby to kind of deliver easily or comfortably. In that size, we say when the baby is on the good size or not. The other things which comes up is all the medical disorders. If they have like diabetes and hypertension, that is are not the absolute contraindication, but they come out to be relative. If they can be controlled and can be manageable, they can have delivered normally. So as this list gone, and of course, fetal distress is one of the things which do occur at the time of the labor, when you can diagnose that the baby is not feeling well or it has to be taken out as quickly as possible, so it can be managed in the nursery. So they kind of then come in. So keeping all of this scenario in, it's long. So all of these things, they can be monitored and then be identified. Once the patient comes to me, especially the primaries, which means the one who are giving the first one, that first baby delivery, that is one of the most important ones. Because that's going to prevent at that time. And you have to actually, during the prenatal period, explain to the patient how those time will pass through. If the patient knows this is going to happen to me, then most of them, they kind of accept that and then can continue. If they are in a blind way, then normally they kind of panic and they say, oh, it's been 4 hours, 5 hours or 8 hours. We've seen labor going up to 18 hours but they deliver at the end, it's fine. But then you need to have patience. One of the things which our patients kind of missing these days is patience. They want to have a ready or shortcut for everything, which you can't find in this. This will take time. This will come on its own. Then we can decide how to move on and how to go about it.
Right.
So you need to have a good relationship between yourself and the patient as well.
Yeah.
So they can understand each other. So you're in a comfort zone, they can talk to each other and then decide how to. When the patient comes to me and say, Dr. Sahab, aap mera unnecessarily section, won't do that.
Yeah.
I tell them, it's not going to me going to decide about your C-section, it's going to you. Because you're the one I'm going to tell you the pros, the cons, and it's up to you.
Yeah.
If you say you want to have this thing done, that's perfectly fine. I'll kind of manage you if we're in that perfect zone. If we're not in the safe zone, it is my duty to make sure I can bring you back there and have a healthy baby and a healthy baby.
Absolutely. And then I think that's so important that, safety. And of course, to quote Hamlet, the readiness is all. And we're going to take a very quick break on this literary note, and we'll be back in a flash. Stay with us. Hi, welcome back to the coffee table. We're having a fascinating conversation about C-Section Awareness Month, which is this month, April. And it never fails to amaze me how easy childbirth can be, but also how fraught and complicated at the same time. And I'm so happy to be having this conversation with OBGYN Dr. Yousaf Latif Khan and Anum Malik, who is a pre- and postnatal fitness expert. So before the break, Dr. Saab, we were talking about being prepared for your birth, and also about how we are sort of focusing on the safety of a mom. And it basically means that even now, childbirth and the process of birthing a baby is still really unpredictable. Like, anything can happen. And for that, you need to have a certain rapport with your doctor and to have information to understand the process. And I think it's really interesting and important that you mentioned that patients come to you and they ask you about an unnecessary C-section. And that's also something that comes up often when we talk about C-sections and how people perceive them, is that there's an idea that a lot of C-sections were not required, but they still happened. So why do you think patients feel like that?
Because it's, again, the communication gap. I totally agree with that. I think it's the way they were told what happened. I don't know if I've been saying that on the television or not, when we were kind of working in government setup, getting training. And we used to go to the labor room, and there was time when sometimes someone would come in, take this one for C-section, take this for normal delivery, and the patient was just lying there and didn't know what was happening to her. And at that stage, there was so much of chaos and so much of patients around. You didn't have time to sit down with them and communicate and tell them what that. And that's very unfortunate. And by the end of the day, you go back to them and ask them, why was your C-section done? And they were in a kind of a blackout. We didn't know. The doctor came and said, okay, do a C-section. And that's it. So, but now it is time that everyone has to realize this thing. Everyone has the right to understand what is going on and how to go about it and why it is being done. And they have to have their say in it as well.
Yes.
Unfortunately, in most of the cases when we are doing that, and I go and consult somebody for whatever, normal delivery or C-section, and she, unfairly, the patients, she says, okay, Dr. Saab, can I call my mother-in-law? Can I call in my husband? Can I call in whatever, XYZ? You can explain them to them, and then they can decide.
Yeah.
I always tell them, the first decision has to be yours.
Yes.
Then, of course, you can get a suggestion from anybody you want.
Yeah.
But first one, it has to be you, because it is you. It is you which is going to go through this process. And do remember that, again, as I was telling you, C-section is not only for about 30 minutes or so. It's a lifelong thing which has no impact on you.
Absolutely. And it's
not going to be over in you.
No, and it's just, it's really frustrating. And I think just tragic on so many levels about how women do not feel like they can make decisions about their own bodies. And Anum, when you get clients at Braxton Cakes, do you feel like a lot of women grapple with that as well? Because I feel like on one level, with childbirth, you kind of, it's sort of like somebody else has literally taken over your body. So you already feel like you are sort of external to this process, this mysterious process that's just happening willy-nilly, and you can't do anything about it. And then you have, this this sort of stress about how you're going to birth this baby? And do you feel like a lot of women are really nervous about it? Do you think it comes from a place where, as women aren't encouraged to think of their bodies as their own to begin with, and then when you are pregnant, it sort of adds on a whole nother level of anxiety? I realize I've asked you like 1,000 things.
No, that's okay. I'll address them all at once. But I think yeah, you're right. Absolutely. That is an issue. But I also feel like, and scaling back to what was being discussed earlier as well, I think more than anything, especially because I feel like I see the fear most in first-time moms. And I think the main reason for that is that the options are not explained to them beforehand. So a lot of women go in like, yes, things have changed now. We have, we can do research online. We have a lot of more information available to us. But that's still very different from actually being told that, okay, look, these are your options. And if these options don't play through, these are the risks, but this is how we will deal with those risks. So like, for example, a lot of girls, most girls who come to me, they want to, try for vaginal delivery. And they come to me saying that, look, we want the chances for us to deliver vaginally to be high. And, the recovery from a surgery, et cetera, can be problematic. We don't want to do that. But and so I always explain to them that, okay, that's great. And like, as long as all goes well, you will get to have a successful vaginal delivery. But in case you are unable to, for whatever reason, just speak to your doctor once, get your options out there, understand what your options are. I always tell them, because they keep asking me things about, okay, so what hospital, what doctor, what will the ward look like? So, like literally some girls, I actually, what I've realized is that since maternal health generally is so neglected, I have had clients in their early 30s who have actually never been to a gynecologist, so they don't even know the first thing about what's going to happen. They've never had a pap smear. They've never had any kind
and
of
that's ridiculous.
Check before. So a
that's
lot of women,
because,
it's ridiculous, right?
Because you have to see a gynecologist for your general well-being and health, and it has no bearing on whether you are sexually active or married or not. It's just...
So when they get pregnant, when these women get pregnant, they're clueless about where to start and what to expect, So, and like, I mean, for instance, like I have spent these past couple of years really, really educating myself and trying to get more and more knowledge in this realm. But over 6 years ago, when I had my first child, I didn't even know that, you could have a cesarean awake. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I didn't, So after an entire day of labor, I was wheeled into an emergency C-section at like 9.5 centimeters dilation. So it was literally,
so close.
I was literally done. So, but there was like, it was a whole other complicated scenario, and I was waiting to be knocked out. And when they told me that, no, you have epidural, we're just going to kind of, cut you open. That gave me a very serious panic attack, So I feel like, explain to, like, women need to be told what their options are. They need to be told that, okay, listen, this is the process. These are your options. These are the probabilities of what might happen. And then they need to be given advice about, okay, no matter how you're delivering, and this is a thing I've noticed as well, that some women, if they're opting for a C-section, they assume that the same kind of fitness level or that same kind of work towards that most pregnant women want isn't required for a cesarean. And I feel like that's also really, really strange to me, because no matter how you're delivering, your body needs that same amount of preparation physically, mentally, in terms of what you're eating, in terms of how mobile you are. Your recovery as well is equally important, whether it was vaginal or whether it was cesarean.
And
so
in some respects,
I think that
and in some respects, I imagine that recovery from a C-section is probably slightly more complex than a vaginal birth because, given that you don't have excessive tearing or any other sort of complications, but a C-section is major abdominal surgery. There's no two ways about that. And recovery from that will probably naturally be different to a vaginal birth.
It's a, and that's the thing, right? That's why I try to tell women that, it's not, don't feel less empowered or don't feel guilty because you ended up with a C-section. It's actually, a C-section is a very major abdominal surgery. So when I think about it, I think that, like, okay, if someone has gone in for, say, an abdominal surgery of some other kind, or you've gone in for heart surgery, you've gone in for any type of surgery.
Yeah, like your appendix
you have
out
a recovery
or something.
period. You have rehab.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have rehab, you have recovery, you have a rest time. Whereas over here, it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, it was just, it's just a C-section. You go home with your baby and you're expected to, like, just get up and continue life as normal. Women need to understand, and I feel like this is changing, and more women do understand this now, that it's a huge toll on your body, but there are ways to kind of make your body stronger before and after, and you do need to understand that it's not just because the whole world has, all the women in the world have been having children. That doesn't mean that, it's any, like, it's just something you should just, accept and move on. No,
yeah,
like, scale back, give yourself,
everybody does it.
Yeah, cut yourself some slack. You went. Everybody, and I feel like a lot of women are told this, especially over here. Yeah, a lot of women are told this over here, that, oh, bache to sab paida karte hain, know. So I'm just like, no, it's not about the fact that everyone gives birth. It's the fact that you gave birth, and that is a huge thing. And you need to understand that, right?
Absolutely.
So, and feel like empowered, about the changes your body just went through.
No, absolutely.
So,
it's massive.
Yeah.
It's massive. And I'm really glad you brought it up. Because, Dr. Saab, do you also feel like you get, and we keep talking about mothers-in-law or parents, or let's just say other relatives who do kind of have this approach to women and their family giving birth, that a lot of times C-sections aren't seen as a real birth, as if somehow it was like an easy way out of a vaginal delivery. Do you feel like there's that sort of bias?
Yeah, definitely there is, and you do need to remember, as Anna was saying, I just want to add one point to that. That is, they don't have to be physically, they have to be mentally prepared for this as well.
Yes.
And that's the portion which we're missing. It's not only the physical fitness which is going to get you through that. It's a mental thing. You need to be mentally as well prepared for everything. And you can only be prepared if you know what's happening. Yeah. So that part, antenatally or even pre-pregnancy part, that is very important part as you come back to that. Yeah. And coming back to your question, yes, of course, as I said, in 1990s, our C-section rate was only about 3% or so. Yeah. So most of the mother-in-laws and all that, they've been delivered normally, and they believe if we can deliver them normally, why can't my babu can do that?
Exactly. Or if I could deliver without an epidural, then you can do it too. Like, it's fine. And a lot of times I find it like really personally galling. It didn't happen to me, thankfully. But a lot of times, like, moms or mums-in-laws will come in and say that, well, she's not allowed to have an epidural. Like, why? Why you don't get to decide that? Yes. Please continue.
So it is the kind of comparing themselves. If we can do it, then why can't this lady or this girl, or can we do that? But they have to understand, in those times, I'm sure at that time there was no air conditioning around in the whole of Pakistan, right? So, but now you can't bear to sit down in any other offices without an air conditioning. Yeah. So it's not a necessity. It's there, and you can't.
It makes our life better.
Do that. And so, of course. And so in this century, there are a lot of other things which can help you out in that. And that is the way you need to kind of down that. Then again, it comes down. There are a lot of times the mother-in-laws has come to me and said, Dr. Saab, you have to convince her that she needs to have a normal delivery or not. So I do have a pep talk with the mother-in-law. I do have a pep talk with my patient. But in the end, I try to explain to the mother-in-law as politely as I could, it is her choice. Yeah. Let her decide. Let's see how things work. Let's cross the bridges as they come. Yes. But we need to give her space as well. We can't impose everything on her.
Absolutely.
And the other thing which comes with the complication of this thing, as we have increasing number of babies in Pakistan, the increasing number of C-section causes problems as well. Yes. There's a difference of complication in the first C-section, in the second one, and it goes sky high in the third one, in the fourth one. You never know what can happen to them.
Yeah.
So
it
these are
gets
things
progressively
in
more
our,
complicated to have a healthy baby and a healthy mother with the amount of C-sections that a mother is undergoing.
if you go to the Europe side or America side, they only have one or two child, and that's enough. But in our family, they need to have 2 sons, 2 daughters, and I don't know how
An
many
extra.
more. So an extra for a backup plan. I don't know what they're planning for, but still. So,
No, you're
once
absolutely
they
right.
come in, we have to keep that also in our mind and tell our patients.
Yeah.
If you only want to have 1 child, 2, 9, chalo, that's okay. But you do remember that if you have a C-section, your obstetrical history totally changes. And then your management will also change in the future as well.
Absolutely.
So we do need that. It's not only those 30 minutes first and you're done with that. It's not only that.
It's a lifetime decision. Yeah, it's absolutely. Absolutely, and that also really means that a C-section, whilst at many turns is a very necessary and life-changing and life-saving procedure, it's also a procedure that is a very carefully considered and carefully undertaken one. We're going to take a very quick break and come back in 1 second. Stay with us. Welcome back to the coffee table and welcome back to this show about C-Section Awareness Month, which is this month of April. And hopefully when you see this as a rerun, you'll still think about that. We are talking to OBGYN Dr. Yousaf Latif Khan and pre- and postnatal fitness expert Anum Malik about C-sections and what do they entail and how a C-section is something that is also something that you live with, and it takes a physical toll on your body, which you can of course recover from safely and in a well-managed way. But there's also an emotional toll that it takes. And Anam, because you work with a lot of moms who are before their babies and after their babies, like, do you feel that there's still a long way to go for us in developing a healthier approach to childbirth for moms? Like, it's still something that a lot of moms struggle with.
I think it's changing slowly and steadily. I think if we were to talk about a healthy approach to like your pregnancy and postpartum period, I think that today a lot more women, like before when I initially started, there were questions about, you have this program for pregnancy and postpartum. Is it safe? What does it entail? So there wasn't much. The only thing we really had was yoga, right? So there was a little bit of apprehension when I would explain to them, no, what I do is not yoga. So, there's a little bit more to that. We strengthen, different parts. We strengthen your body.
Yeah, and I think this whole idea of
an entire kind of comprehensive program. So there was,
Sorry, yes. Yeah, I was saying that even this whole idea about how pregnant women can be strong, even that I think is really revolutionary, because everyone's like, oh my God, if you're pregnant, you have to like sit on the sofa all day long. Or once you've had a baby, then also you must kind of really just take it easy. And that there's, these are the things that you should not be doing. But then even with like C-sections, you have a scar, but you're also like nursing your baby and you're holding your baby and you're doing all of these things, and you need to be strong for that. Like you can do both the things together.
And it does it like, and I feel like, I think it's great that this is changing now, because now I have girls who reach out to me and they're just like, yes, I want a really strong pregnancy and I want a healthy pregnancy and I want a fast recovery. And I've been doing this for long enough to know that the more women who have focused throughout their 9 months on strength training, the better. Not only like the mode of delivery aside, their recovery has been a lot better and a lot faster, and that is irrelevant to how you delivered. So whether you delivered vaginally, whether you delivered through cesarean, if you've had a strong pregnancy, you will there's a great chance that you will have a very strong postpartum as well. So it's a major abdominal surgery, a cesarean. Yes, we already know that. But if you have strengthened your body, your recovery will be quicker. It is, I know that we were talking earlier about like women who opt for cesarean because they don't want to go through the pain of a vaginal delivery. And I understand that that does exist.
Yeah.
But, the thing for me, which is like baffling for me on that front, is that a cesarean can be equally painful, so like in terms of like you may not feel it in the time, but right after the surgery the recovery is it's longer, it's slower. So it's not that I just, what I try to tell women is that don't look for the quicker fix or the less people. Just try and focus on being healthy throughout your pregnancy, being strong, and just just leave the mode of delivery to nature and your doctor.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's, that baby come out of you one way or another. The mode of delivery is not always in your hands. But what is in your hands is strengthening your body. What is in your hands is being, as Dr. Yousaf even mentioned earlier, is being mentally prepared for the fact that you are going to have this baby. And I think that a lot of more women understand this. And now, before there was a lot of fear postpartum about how to get back to like a fitness program, how to kind of get back to even daily life. There was a lot of postpartum depression that was associated with it. And I would see a lot more with cesarean women, because, with the cesarean, you're kind of, it's a little bit difficult for you to kind of be as up and about, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I feel like those women would suffer from PPD a little bit more. But I feel like now, 6 weeks in, because 6 weeks is the time that I give, is 6 weeks in, they're back, they're like ready to come back. And by week 8, 9, they're like, no, I feel ready. Telling them that you're lifting your baby already every single day, right?
That's
you're
heavy.
bending
It's
over
heavy baby.
to like change your baby, you're crouching to like, you're doing so, it shouldn't be. I feel like when I think about like Cesarean Awareness Month, and whatever I've tried to talk to women about this before, whenever I've tried to talk to women about this before, I just want them to stop obsessing about the mode of delivery, because I feel like so much stress comes with that, and it really, really does actually affect you, especially afterwards as well. I would want more and more women to just do their research, speak to their doctor, know their options, know that sometimes your birth plan is not going to go the way you had hoped or you had expected, and that's okay. That's like, and it's really, really perfectly fine. It does not matter. And so as long as you're prepared, you have, and you're mentally and physically prepared, it shouldn't matter how you delivered.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important. But Dr. Yousaf, do you feel like there's still a kind of distrust with patients and doctors? Because, there's this idea that doctors prefer to do C-sections because it's quicker, or that you don't have to wait. Like we talked about in the first segment, how on average a normal labor can take anywhere between 4 to like 13 hours, which is really just normal. This just happens. It's expected. But there's this sort of, these are common perceptions about C-sections. The doctors like to hurry you up and then just do a C-section, or that they get paid more, that's why they want to do more C-sections, or that hospitals encourage it. So do you think that these are sort of myths or misperceptions that develop distrust between patients and their doctors?
Yes, they definitely do. And these are being in the market round, and the people have been even sued for these kind of things. So one of the things which we in our hospital do is our fee for a C-section and a normal delivery is same. So they can't come and tell me,
yes, you were trying to make a quick buck.
So that is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yes, coming at odd hours and doing all this, that is part and parcel of the profession which we have chosen.
Yeah.
And because we love it so much, we have to do it for our own sake, for our patient's sake, and for everybody. And we've been doing it, I don't know. My father has been doing it, I don't know for how long. And it's about maybe 5, 7 or 8 years down the road, he stopped doing that. But still, we are the one who's kind of taking his legacy on and kind of doing that. Absolutely. So, yes, there are taboos and all of these things. Mina, as I said, you need to build up trust between your doctor and yourself. You just can't do that. You have to have that. And it is the same way like a husband and wife or anybody else's relationship, I would say that.
Yeah.
And sometimes they are so even close, they talk so much about it, they don't even share to about anybody else, even their spouses. There are things which they would not like to talk about that. So we are in a close net that. And once the patient comes to us, and it's a whole family kind of thing, we kind of try to make it in a manner to make sure that this journey kinds of ends in a smoother, happier, and whatever the objectives are, we kind of achieve that.
Absolutely.
So money part, I'm sure that people do blame that, but I don't personally believe that's the most on the top of the list. Convenience, yes, it might happen, but anybody who comes to obstetrician and gynecology, they come with this baggage on with themselves. They know they have to leave a party to come to here. In the middle of the night, they have to come up and do that. And I know my wife, she sometimes, she has never claimed blame me for anything or kind of claimed anything, but in the middle of the night, if the phone rings, it has to ring. She can't say that it's kind of because she understands. And it's all of this kind of family thing which comes up. And in the end, it's a beautiful profession to have, and I'm so proud of a part of it.
Well, thank you so much, Yousaf, and thank you so much, Anum, for being with me on the show today. And I think that it is such a wonderful note to end on, that OBGYNs knew what they were getting into when they chose to specialize in this field, and they love what they do. And it's really not that nobody's trying to make a quick buck off of your body. And I think that one really important takeaway from this is that your body is your own, and you are allowed to make decisions about your body and about your well-being and your baby's well-being, and that this is such a wonderful experience, and the readiness is all really, and there is so much information out there, and there's so much support out there for pregnant women and their families to be able to have the best possible experience, to have a healthy mom and healthy baby. You can all have a really good life. Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time on the coffee table. Bye now.